characters once Trump came in and appointed all kind of judges. Again, the Senate. So the brother in that video was really correct and raising that issue as something that we need to look at. It's not just the executive branch, because as he so clearly stated, they just sign off on or try to block or veto legislation that's put on their desk by the Congress,
Right.
whether it's federal, by the state assemblies and the state senates on the state level, and by the city council on the municipal level. So all those different characters play a role in what happens in our lives. And if folks thought that oh, it really didn't matter who's running what because it's not affecting me, I think the last 4 years has woken up a whole bunch of folks that you are affected very dramatically by what's going on with the in politics and with government.
Well, it's still maybe, when as soon as you said that, it struck me that I can see why a lot of people did feel that it didn't matter, or were apathetic towards the whole idea of the voting, before before Trump got in. But soon as Trump got in, I think people, you viscerally see what your apatheticness gets you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean you see that, and um it's not just something that's just sitting there, and you don't know nothing, and you can't see it or touch it or get the effects of it. Before, business as usual, they're gonna do what they want. They don't care about nobody. You ain't getting nothing. And I guess that was, people were, you're right, apathetic about it. But now, after you get somebody like, when you get a real stink butt like Trump in there, who I would classify as a Hall of Famer stink butt, uh, uh, you start to say to yourself, "Shit, I got it. There's got to be something I can do."
Hmm.
And then then all of a sudden, the civics lesson that we've all ignored for like 30 years, or whatever, they don't, and it makes sense why they don't teach civics, because how can you hide some of your maniacal bad behavior or misbehaving if you keep giving people lessons about honesty and truth and how things are supposed to work? How can you hide your historical misbehaving? And there's been a lot of misbehaving going on by white guys. And I know that there's a lot of them that say, I didn't do it. Or as my man in the barber shop says, it weren't me. Uh, but I don't know. I don't know as a collective if that means anything. I didn't do it. You know how
Yeah.
you get a,
No, you're absolutely right. The only point I would maybe take some issue with is that
oh,
we all didn't ignore the other elections over all these last several
correct.
decades. Many of us have, and I would say especially the young people. I know as a young person, I was so jaded and disgusted by the political system that I didn't vote in the national election until Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan. That was the first national election I voted in, and I just saw Reagan as just such a
Stink butt.
yeah, that's a good word. Think was good. Think was good.
For lack of a better
Yeah,
term.
and also for the first time then, this is back in 1970, in the 70s, going into 1980. I felt a personal stake in that I had a job where I was a political appointee under the Carter administration. So I was inside the federal government and I got to see what was going on. And when the administration flipped from Democrat to Republican, all the leadership across all the agencies changed. And I had never really paid much attention to that, but I got a chance to see that up close and personal. And even though I did learn working in government that it's the bureaucrats that run everything, it's still the leadership that sets the tone, that sets the policy, and that really kind of guides and directs the direction of the agency. So, I got a real lesson being inside and then seeing it flip and seeing Reagan come in and watching what happened. So, I've been paying attention since then to all the other levels of government and just how it affects us really directly. Because when Reagan came in, he really put a hurt on black folks. I mean, very directly. And we could feel it in terms of just, cutting back so much in terms of the welfare state and the food stamps and the criminal justice things that he put down, just so much negativity that hurt us in a real direct way. And I think he had both houses, both branches of Congress, if I'm not mistaken, in his first term. I could be wrong, but I think he did. And so I've been kind of watching much more closely since then because it has such a personal impact on me. But you're right. Today, a lot of folks still, until this guy just got in the White House, I don't think they were maybe looking as closely when Obama came in. A lot of black folks got energized and excited, but as the brother said in the PSA, we as a group, as a collective, didn't show up for the midterms. The Congress flipped and essentially shut down on Obama. So even though he was a president, his hands were tied for like the next 6 years. So that I think should have been the beginning of a wake up call for us. And now with this Trump character in there, I mean, if you ain't woke now, I mean, you're comatose. You're not gonna be woke.
Well,
So
that bro, while you were talking, I was thinking, and I wanted to get your opinion on the. And I'm sure you saw what I saw. I mean, what's your opinion? What's your opine on the 17-year-old kid with the AR-15, Stu? Going out, going from one state to another because under the guise that no one's doing anything and we have to go and protect the property. I mean, do you find it interesting that they not even dealing with why people are out there?
I wouldn't use the word interesting. I would call it outrageous.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
it's outrageous. I mean, again, it's white privilege, it's white supremacy. It's back to the good folks on both sides of the equation, fighting for liberty and fighting for white supremacy and the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, it's crazy. And then I just heard on the news this morning that there were hundreds of cars that showed up with protesters, pro-Trump protesters, that incited all of the discord over the weekend. I think it was Saturday night and last night. And you had the president praising, the pro-Trump protesters, whereas the folks on the other side, he's calling terrorists. So it's insidious. It's way beyond interesting. It's insidious, and the way it's being characterized and I think orchestrated by folks on the right side of the political spectrum is to really sow discord and to really just kind of inflame the whole situation under the hopes that it's going to help the incumbent guy get reelected as a savior, for to put down all of this unrest that he is in fact a big perpetrator of. That's my opinion.
I'm just, the reason why I said use the term interesting, and I'm glad you took a little umbrage with it, is that how how is it that they don't see why people are out there? I mean, how can you be so myopic that you go, oh, somebody's breaking the window, and I don't know why they're breaking the window?
Well, when you say that, who don't see?
the white men who are part of the militia, the media who's actually, when the president is promulgating this, when they don't ask them those kind of questions. Don't you see that there's a problem with that? You're telling people, one group of people, that this is going on, and you're not even addressing why people are out there. How does that work?
Well,
I don't know.
I'll say two things, because to me you identified two constituencies in the they. I would say the media they is complicit in that they love a horse race, they love confrontation, they love mayhem because that's great for the ratings, fires and stuff blowing up. That's great TV. That's great for the news. That's great for the bottom line of the news networks. So in my mind, they are complicit in stoking and lifting up just to how crazy all this crap is, as opposed to being really analytical. You do see some analysts
Right?
that are
Where's
kind of
the
breaking it down, but big big picture,
well,
I think they're stoking. I think they're
Stu,
think they're
uh,
taking advantage.
Stu, I'm going to take umbrage with you on that. I don't even think they're stupid. I think they're being totally stupid. I mean,
No,
stoking would be. I might be okay with them
I don't think they're
stoking it. I
stupid,
don't
but
even think they're doing that, Stu. I just think they're just mindlessly going along with
you may be
bullshit
right.
and asking stupid questions.
You may be right. They may just be stupid.
It's unbelievable, Stu.
I tend to be more paranoid and think that
Okay, I got you.
that they have hidden agendas, being the money, and that they are being directed and controlled by their leadership behind the scenes as to how to approach stuff. Now, maybe I may be a little paranoid. I'm willing to grant
Wow.
that I do have some paranoia. I wish that I could agree with you that they're just stupid. You know,
I'm not saying they're just stupid, but I mean I'm talking about the just the forward the part that's out in front. I think I wouldn't disagree with you that there's something going on behind the scenes that causes them to act in that manner. The
mm,
part that bothers me is that the lack of any kind of obvious next questions. The guy gets up there, he lies. They don't they don't check him. They,
yeah,
they they come up with some fake thing called, oh, we got the fact checkers. They make a cottage industry off of reporting his lies.
yeah.
They
But
don't they
then,
don't, they don't confront
but,
the
but
lie. They
then, but
don't.
they don't really call him the task. Oh, twenty
Thank
thousand
you,
fines,
thank
no
you,
big deal. But
thank
right,
you.
kind of that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
Oh, look
that's
at
the
this.
that's the mindlessness that drives me nuts. I'm going
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about? Like
yeah,
when they ask him, well, when he says, well, I don't know, I'm going to see if I'm going to leave. And they don't follow up and say, well, Joe Biden. What if Joe Biden loses and he says, I didn't lose, I won,
hmm
and you got to get out. What are you going to do about that? He would have to, he would have to defer to the system, and they don't ask any of those kind of intellectual questions that gets you to the next step of the foolishness. They stay right at the foolishness and they don't go past it.
hmm
You know what I mean? And it's, to me, it's degrading, and it really says, like the Fox News guy gets up there and says the reason why the guy was out there shooting is because no one else wanted to go out there and protect the property. Never dealt with the idea that we got a real problem here. It ain't no we got a real problem. It's, oh, they're messing with the property. We got to go in there and and counter the protests with our protests, or with confrontational, and not even deal with the problem. We're going to go confront that. And when people are upset and angry, I don't know if confrontation is going to work that well. It doesn't work in your family. It doesn't work anywhere. When someone's upset, you getting up there and confronting them is not going to bring tamp down the situation.
No, it's
At
not.
least
It's
that's
not
my
an
experience. I
effective
don't know how you feel.
technique. It's not.
Yeah. So what are they doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. Lack of leadership.
I just go back to what are they doing? Stoking the fires uh, increasing their TV ratings. We don't really give a damn who wins. Let's just make sure we got a nice horse race here going on. And the more inflamed everything is, the better it is for our TV ratings and for our bottom line. I haven't seen what the revenue has been for the news media. I'm talking about CNN, MSNBC. I know Fox has been off the page, but I'd be interested to see, a longitudinal look, say going back to a couple years before Trump, and then looking at the lead up, at and looking at the revenue that the major media companies made, and looking at the trends of the last 6 years. Uh, my guess would be, and I'm just guessing, it's just my intuitive hunch, that it has been trending up, up, up. And you look at the previous 6 years, and I bet it's no comparison with the amount of money they're making now. So I mean, I keep going back to follow the money when when you talk about why. So that's my take on that. You still there, Mr. Dougie? I think we lost Mr. Doug on our after action report. We've been talking about the current.
I turned on my mic, still. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, still, I was going to say that ain't, in my mind, that ain't news. They that what we're seeing is not really. They are just going along with. They just going along with the craziness, and it kind of almost makes no damn going sense. Like, what the hell are they doing? They're not. They're like you said. They're just going at the little
You're
surface stuff.
tuned into GHCR,
Like,
Grant Houses Community Radio, home of the Community News Service.
uh, Tina Dixon, Tina, Tina Dixon. The I am TinaDixon.com. But the thing that strikes me, Stu, that they're, first of all, it would be okay if they were actually reporting something. They're not doing that. They're just on there counting his lies, like you said, going along with their apparently their monetary benefits that they're getting, and then on top of that, when there is a crisis, they can't even take a position. The one thing about the Fox News, they do take a position, which kind of like makes no sense because they don't have any respect for their opponents. They have no respect for your opponent. You have no respect for the person who disagrees with you. How can you even battle a person, or how can you even hope to have a victory when you don't even respect your opponent? And here, like you look at Trump, he gets out there and says, "Well, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be rigged, it's going to be that," and they let him say it, and then they say, "Oh, the democracy is in trouble," and they say things like, "Oh, our democracy is in trouble," and they're partaking in it. They're partaking in their trouble. They don't provide both sides of the story. They just now started to. This is 2020. They just started to realize that black people and people who are not white men, and this is why they're skirting around this issue. This is my opinion, because they're starting to see that this thing is all set up for white men,
Mm.
and they're beating, and I think they're desperately beating around the bush because the media, the commercial media, is controlled by white men. And so they're beating around the bush because they're doing what they've done all along, which is try to hide and obfuscate. I don't know if that's the right way to
That's
say it.
right. You got it right.
Thank you very much, though. And yeah, they're trying to do what I just hardly had a hard time saying.
Hmm.
It's just they're so busy doing that they think no one sees them,
Hmm.
and everyone sees what they're doing. They're not asking intellectual questions. They're not being truth tellers for the most part. And when you look at the Fox News and all them, you go to yourself, they should be ashamed of themselves because they're shilling for white men. That's all they're doing. They're up there and they're going, white men this, white men that, white man, white man. They don't say those words, but everything they talk about means that. We're the white men. We know what's going on. We're in charge. It's all about us. Forget about everything else you heard. The white guy that murdered 2 people in the thing, he was doing a good job. He murdered 2 people. He murdered 2 people, and they have no respect for that. He murdered 2 white people. He didn't even murder Stu. He didn't murder nobody black. He murdered 2 white guys. And they're blaming this shit on they're playing the party game with some Democratic bullshit. They're going, oh, it's the Democrats. They don't want to go out and protect anything. What are you talking about? You didn't see the armored cars out there with the police? Oh, we got to have peaceful protests. What are you talking about? If people are angry enough to go on the street and protest, what the fuck are you talking about? It's got to be the way that you say it's got to be. What the fuck is wrong with them? It's got to be the protest is not peaceful. Why the fuck would a protest necessarily be peaceful? People are upset about something. Why do they have to sit around and act like little kids and march in line and be very fucking quiet when they're upset about something? It reminds me of being in the being in prison during the Attica Rebellion, and they made us walk outside in the prison yard, which I've told you this 10 million times. Walk outside of the prison yard, and because you had to get a hour exercise, they called them doing us a favor, and they had all of these guards and vigilantes from the town on the tower around the wall of the prison with their rifles out, and you're walking around in the yard where they're waiting for somebody to fuck up. I still today could hear everybody's feet crunching on the ground as you're walking in a circle. That's the kind of thing that they want. They want you to be treated like, want you to go out there and act like you're in, like I was when I was in prison, and there was a riot going on. They want you to walk around and be quiet. They wanted somebody to start something so they could just pick you off.
The answer would be yes. That is what they want.
Hey, still lucky for me, I was so young, I was too stupid to be afraid.
Well, thank God.
Thank God. I was busy walking around going, oh, wow, look at all those cops up there. Look at all those people. Those are the townspeople. They all on the wall with the guns. Holy shit. And, there was this, of course, like they had a couple of guys on the line with like a couple of mentally ill people in there who was talking.
Mm-hmm.
And no one else was talking. It was like, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And all you hear is the whole, I don't know, 500, 600 inmates walking around in a circle like you was in some gulag or something. And all you hear is their feet go. Because nobody wanted to talk. It was mandatory that you had to go out there. Imagine that. You couldn't even stay inside. I don't want to go out there, man. I ain't going out there. Oh, yes, you are. They made everybody go out there. So just hoping that somebody would start something. And that's what when I listen to Fox News and them, that's what they are like. And the thing that I find interesting is that when you go back and look at their history, everything that this country have gotten, they've robbed, they stealed, they murdered, they pilfered others to get it. They came here, they took the shit from the Indians. They didn't go in there and have a nice negotiation. They killed them.
Yeah.
When they took California from the Mexicans, they killed them. When they went and took land from the black people who happened to figure out how to own land, they killed them and took it.
Yeah.
So of course, they're not going to put any of that into the record books because, like that guy said, guilty feet have got no rhythm. They're guilty.
And it's global. I mean, the Europeans.
Yes, it is.
When they went out in the 14 and 1500s, they did that across the globe. They did it in North America. They did it in Central America. They did it in the Caribbean. They did it in South America, and they did it in Africa. So the only place where on the globe that they were not able to they did it in Australia, but it was so big, most of the Aborigines were able to get out of the way and out into the hinterlands. But the only major region that survived that European incursion was China and Asia. And other than that, the Europeans did just what you said, went out
everywhere,
pilfered, exterminated, took control of land, took control of resources, and still to this day, their heirs are in control and running most of these places.
And then you get them to get up there and say, "I didn't do that." I mean, they're benefiting from everything, and they didn't do that. You have
It wasn't me, right?
weren't me, and you have the 26% or the 30%, depending upon who you're talking to, white men of the population who are clearly a minority, running everything and calling everybody else a goddamn minority and native minorities. And then to add insult to, I shouldn't say insult to injury, but then to actually open up, put toothpicks and wake up everybody. You put a stink butt in as the president and his Renfield like meandering followers of toadyisms, the toadies who follow him around and think that he's okay. And these people get on TV and go, the kid that went in and murdered 2 people was a hero. He didn't have to be out there. He didn't have, nobody asked him to go out there. I saw the police up there. They had armored cars. They had plenty of stuff. And, you had these militia guys, and they still, here in this country, they still believe that if you have a weapon, that somehow you're going to protect yourself. And then they have weapons come in here, and then when weapons get in the hands of everybody or all kinds of people, they complain about that. Oh, the people's got weapons. What we need is more weapons to counter the people who got the weapons. Oh, really? We're going to take the gun industry and we're going to indemnify them. We're going to have people who gets their hands on guns, and they're going to go in and kill school kids and kill school children. And we're still going to, and the country still ignores that. The white men still ignore that. So what? What the hell? But when somebody breaks a window, we got to have the militia. We got to come. You can't break a window. You can't be upset about something that the government is doing, that the police are doing, and go out and break a damn window and think there's not going to be a consequence. I mean, how ludicrous is that, Stuart?
Totally. It makes no sense whatsoever.
It's not logical, I don't think.
No, but logic is not what's running things.
White men are.
It's white supremacy. It's
white men, man. Call it like it is, man. They ain't white women. I don't see no white women just running around and being in charge of everything.
Okay, white male supremacy.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart.
And vested interest supremacy, which is the same group. And it's not even most white men. It's a minority of white men, but they perpetrate and they have brainwashed the white men that don't have to believe that the reason they don't have is because of all of the folks of color and the others. So they've been able to marshal the other white men to get behind protecting the minority of the white men that are really in control and running things.
Unfucking real.
It's a crazy dynamic. Yeah.
It's like so. Then you have, and this is what happens when you have a confluence of the same group of people who are running everything, which is the case that I, made about, the police force. When you go to the federal, the Justice Department, 78 or somewhere the high 70s or maybe 80% of all of the police officers in the United States are white, either white men or mostly white men. If you have that confluence or that a group of people being in charge of the protecting and promulgating the laws in our country, you're going to have a problem. And the reason why I thought that is because if you took that same dynamic and say, let's take out the 72% of white men and make it 72% of people that are black that are doing that. Our bias or no matter what color you are, your filters and implicit biases are going to come out. I believe that you cannot have a police force or any kind of government body that's made up of predominantly one group of people of the same particular race or gender. You cannot have a democracy when you have that, because the implicit bias and the racial filters and all kinds of other filters are going to be very evident, as evident by the police force and the sheer numbers. I'm just talking about the statistics. When you look at who's running the police force, who's making the command decisions, and you look at their outcomes, you can see that their racial biases are there. And it would be there for anyone. If you had all black, there would be a lot of white people getting invested. If you had all Chinese, there would be a certain group of people who are Asian that the Chinese people don't care for. Whether they're Cantonese, whether they're Wu, whatever the different variations of their people, they know who those criminals are. Same thing with Russia, same thing with everywhere. And so if you don't have an this is my theory, if you don't have an homogenized confluence with mixed in with your democracy, you're going to get you're going to have a bitter meal still.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm reminded of the last line from T'Challa in Black Panther from Chadwick Boseman,
which I watched last night, by the way.
Yeah, the last line was, we're not going to be able to fix this stuff until we all act as though we are one tribe.
They don't. I don't see how that. I don't see how that's going to happen while you have the one group of people in charge of everything, because I don't think psychologically they would be able to do it, nor would any other group of people who, if their predominant group were in charge of things, they're not going to be able to see past their biases.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what T'Challa was saying. As long as we are our thinking is confined to our own particular tribe and
Correct.
the self-interest of that tribe,
Stuart, the reason why I have always brought up the obvious, the thing about, the things that I learned from being a basketball player is because of not the actual basketball playing part of it, because of the idea that you're forced to understand the ins and outs of teamwork. You're forced to understand the ins and outs of teamwork. And when you don't deal with it, you get, generally speaking, you usually get the shit beat out of you on the court.
Okay, well, I'm sure that lesson is very important. But the flip side of that, and I think that works against us, is the fact that you have in sports, and this is inculcated in our culture and in some ways world culture, not just U.S. culture. You have one team pitted against another team, and you have winners and you have losers.
Correct.
And you always have losers. There's no such thing as everybody
Correct.
wins.
Correct.
There's no such thing as we win.
Correct.
It's I win and you lose.
Correct.
And I think that is a fundamental problem that we have as a human race.
I think that's a fundamental problem that you have in a capitalistic culture. I would say that. I would say as a human race, that's probably not, maybe I would differ with you. I believe that humans, in looking out for each other, particularly with terms of tribalism, probably would do a lot better if you didn't have the kind of capitalistic stuff in there that actually guarantees that there's going to be winners and losers.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And they're not,
and sets folks against each other by
correct.
design.
Correct. And then anything that's called working together is cast aspersions as socialism, bad. It's going to be, and dig this. There's never no reason. There's never no reason why there shouldn't be some socialistic aspects of things. There's never no reason why they've decided to make socialism a fucking bad word. Why? I don't get it.
That's political. That's money.
I get that. I mean, and they don't, and people aren't. Again, I go back to our lack of truth tellers and lack of people who are examining the basics of what's really going on. What do we do? That's why I always talk about when we do that. Not always, but I like to talk about the culture, because the culture is what we all do. It's what we do around here in this country. What is our culture? Well, our culture is that we have a capitalist system. We have white men that predominate all of that, and everything falls behind that. You have to change the culture. You have to get, because and the reason how they screw that up is they never talk about all the positive things of the culture, like all of us cooperating with each other. And I'm sure that kid who went out there, 17 years old, he don't know shit, 17. And I'm sure somebody told him all of this. Somebody told him that that was a good idea, because someone told them that that would be a good idea, because someone else is not doing what they're supposed to do. You know, a lack of, I keep going back to my story, a lack of respect for your opponent. Once you, you know, when you have people who are in different things, if you respect your opponent, then you can sit down and talk and say, well, how can we, you know, how can we work this out? Look at what the NBA guys did. Those guys are opponents. Those guys are competing against each other, but they came together in a collective because they understand that they were part of a bigger group. And we don't, and in our culture of the United States, we don't have that. And I'm blaming the white men who are running things. They don't want that. They don't want to have a collective culture where everybody's working together for the benefit of each other. They want to have scarcity and unfair advantage so that they can continue to make money, because they think that's what this country is all about, or they believe that's what this country is about.
Well, they have made it what this country is about, and
I stand corrected. Thank you, Stu.
And it has worked to their benefit, and they want to keep it that way.
And then, right, and they have no humanity. They have no humanity, and I understand why they can't have any humanity, because when you're winning, you don't have time to be gregarious to your opponent. You don't have time for that. Not them. Whereas in sports, you get the higher the level you get, the more respect you're going to have for your opponent. And the more of it that you know that your opponent, that's the person who's going to bring out the best in you. That's who's going to do it, your opponent in the field of play. And if you don't have any respect for that, then you don't get anywhere. And they totally eliminated that whole part of everything and just came in the shotgun and said, we're the white guys and we're in charge, and fuck everybody else. Now, maybe all of them, that wasn't the intent. Maybe all of them don't feel like that, but that's the fucking result. That we're in charge, and screw everybody else who, if you're not a winner, if you're not in our club, you are fucked. And they're perfectly okay with it. Otherwise, how do you explain somebody going in with a gun, killing all those kids, somebody going to Las Vegas, killing all those people at the concert, somebody going in the club, killing people, and they do nothing? They do nothing, man. I mean, not one fucking thing. You get a guy that comes in, they know that there is a pandemic coming in, and the guy gets up there and says, oh, it's the Kung flu. It's the Chinese flu. It's somebody else did it. I'm not taking no responsibility for nothing. That's your leader? That's the people, that's how we're going to fix this? I think that's the same kind of attitude that got us to where what you were saying when they were going out and saying, let's go to the next land over there and let's take that over. There's people living there. So what? We don't care. Fuck them. Let's kill them. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is that?
You know, it's you know, I don't know what it is. I think it's more than just they like winning and they want to keep on winning, because you rewind to what you just said 400 or 500 years ago, and you had these Europeans going out and just annihilating civilizations. I don't think that had ever occurred on the planet before. The Romans didn't do that when they took over. Certainly indigenous cultures in Africa and America and didn't act like that. They might take over, but they didn't eliminate people. I mean, you know, just a genocidal approach that the European excursion of you know, of the colonial whole period of colonialism and that takeover. I mean, when you say what is it, I don't know what that is. I mean, greed and power just to the nth degree, that where just there's no humanity whatsoever.
None.
I mean, none. So
none. That's why a guy could go out, young kid, somebody could think it's a good idea to give you a 17-year-old fucking kid AR-15 rifle and take that kid someplace out, and we're going to go protect the building when the building don't need fucking protecting. That's why they have insurance, man. That's your protection. They have insurance, man. You have a business, you get the goddamn insurance, and that's what protects you. Mm-hmm. Not you going out there with a weapon and standing out there and going like, oh, well, people are mad and you can't, and I don't want you to break my fucking window.
That's subterfuge, man. That's subterfuge.
Of course it is, and the people they don't call that out. Mm-hmm. What are you talking about? The guy goes out there and he kills two people and the fucking cops let him walk away. The guys walk into the State House in Michigan, armed to the teeth, spit in the police station, nothing happened. They're chasing the kid that got shot in the back. The guy has got his gun out, following the guy with his gun out. He's not following the guy and grabbing the guy's shirt and going, hey, look, I'm talking to you. What are you walking away from me? He's got his fucking gun out while the guys, and all these people are around. I got my gun. You got to fucking listen to me. I have, and I've been in situations, even myself. I was standing in the crowd watching some police activity, and this cop comes up to me. This guy's got to be like fucking 20 years old or something. He's a fucking baby. And he goes, he walk. I'm standing over there, back in the crowd, and he looks at me and goes, man, get back. And start yelling. I said, you don't have to speak to me like that, man. He said, get back. You have to, I'll take you over to the precinct. He said, you want to go over to the precinct? I said, of course not. I'm just standing here watching, but you don't need to speak to me like that, man. I don't mind moving back, man. I'm just standing here watching. He tried to act like I had no humanity. And when I talked to him like that, like he was a real person, he had to back down. They believe that you have to follow their fucking instructions. If you don't follow the instructions, they pull out a gun.
Yeah.
That's who they are. And until they change the culture of the police, and they can talk all they want, and this is just my opinion. And I'm not nobody. But until they change the culture, there's not gonna be any difference. You have to change the culture. You have to get those people.
And it's not just the police culture, it's the whole culture of the country, because the same behavior that you're talking about the police, the Senate is acting the same way.
Well, of course, they're white men. They're in charge. We don't have to do nothing. And again, people could talk about Mitch McConnell all they want, but as we've had many conversations, including those up at the professor's house, which I would take that if somebody really wants to find out, they should go back and look at those the chronicles, because they were doing pro-pyramid Congress. They should go. That was done 2 or 3 years ago, and we was in there busting Mitch McConnell then. You know what I mean? We was all on in his Kool-Aid then. And the idea that you have all those other senators there and they're going along with it, nothing's being said. Even the Democratic ones, they're not calling that out. No, they're not. Mm-hmm. They're not calling that, going, well, the speaker ought to do this. Fuck the speaker, man. You fucking piece of shit. They should be cursing him out.
Come on, you saw the way they spoke out and called Obama a liar right in the middle of the Senate.
They didn't do that. They haven't done that to the president. They haven't done that to the real liar.
How come we're not seeing a little quasi-mama action? Not even. I mean,
you got me.
I don't mean physical, but they ought to be stepping to these guys.
They should have been. They should have stand when he came to the Senate. They should have stand up in the Senate and go in unison, going, "You're a liar."
Right.
Liar.
Yeah.
That's all they should have did. You're a liar. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't have did anything about it. He wouldn't have showed no palm or nothing. He would have walked out and said, "Oh, they're nasty. They told the truth about me." Well, he wouldn't have said that. I mean, when I was watching, here's what the point. When I was watching the NBA guys and what they did, and I was so proud of those young gentlemen.
Yes.
When I watched the march on, they tried to downplay the march on Washington that the Reverend did. You saw how they downplayed that?
Yeah.
They didn't want to talk about how many that thing had a lot of people. They didn't want to talk about that, man. Mm-hmm. They acted like that wasn't the event. I thought that was interesting how they tried to downplay that. Oh, thousands and thousands of people showed up. And really? You're not surprised? Mm-hmm. And I thought it was in when I listened to them, people was going, we tired, we this, blah, blah, blah. And I kept saying to myself, okay, you know what? If they need to, the rest of the country needs to pay attention to what's going on, because the stuff that's going on could happen to anyone. It could happen to any person. I mean, I know a lot of people around there think that, well, I'm a white person and it's not going to happen to me. Bullshit. Like that post office thing, like that post office commercial, that thing was going bullshit. There could be, you cannot know when they're going to decide that they're going to come and take your fucking kids, or they're going to come by and take your grandparents, or they're going to come up with some rule that benefits them and not benefit and doesn't benefit anybody else. And when you have a Senate that gets up and says, we don't want to hear we don't want to hear nothing about no stinking evidence, people should be afraid. They should be afraid, man, and they shouldn't. And like the guy said, in the rapper guy said, shouldn't be just going out there to vote for the president. To vote for the president now, you should be going to all those other elections, the congressmen, the district attorneys. A lot of these district attorneys run unopposed. What kind of bullshit is that? And then they make the laws.
Mm-hmm.
Then they decide who's going to go to prison. That person gets to run unfucking opposed. The person who can decide whether or not the state can lock you up or execute you or lock up your family or take away your property or take away your freedom. You let that person run unopposed? Are you kidding me right now? That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Still, we're doing that on a regular basis.
Well, I would say to your question about what's going on, I would say people are waking up.
Thank God.
All the young people that we're seeing out marching, all of the folks that we saw Friday that showed up down in Washington, I would say that folks are starting to focus on the problem in a way that, I haven't seen since the 60s. So, I'm hoping that, enough of us are going to take action, really. Because it's not enough just to be focused and to be woke. Then you got to do something. Yep. So I'm hoping that that's going to start with this November election, and as you say, not just the executive branch, but all the branches of government.
Yeah, you got to go down the line, man. You can't have these district attorneys who decide, like the district attorney in Staten Island when Eric Gardner, the medical examiner said it was murder, and the district attorney said, so what?
Right.
He said so fucking what, Stu?
PR.NYC. Grant houses community radio.
The district attorney of Staten Island said, so fucking what? And maybe because he was, I don't know that, but maybe because he was black and, there's a stereotype, nobody paid any attention to that because that could have been anybody. He could have been any person. Oh, well, I don't sell cigarettes. Oh, really? The police roll up on you, throw you on the ground, blah, 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 and what are you going to do?
All right.
There you go. But see, they don't think that. They look at the color and go, oh, it's a black guy. That ain't going to happen to me. Because of, like I said earlier, because they know the racial makeup of the police force is around the country. And if you're going to maintain a system where you're going to have the white men be in charge, you have to have a police force that's controlled by white men. Can't have anything else.
And a judiciary.
And a what?
Judiciary. The judges.
Well, remember this, Stu. No one's a criminal unless you are brought to the judiciary system by the police. Those are the people.
And convicted.
Well, that happens second.
Right.
But no one's presented as a crime who have broken the laws of the country or of our society until the police bring you in front of the system.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing you have to do is not be brought in front of the system. And what you have now is that the police are making decisions without even bringing people to the judiciary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's kind of going on. That I don't know if that's been talked up enough, but that's kind of like the end result of what's happening. Instead of them just saying, okay, well, we think you've committed a crime, we bring you in, we take you into custody, and we bring you in, and then it gets adjudicated through the judiciary system. No, you have police deciding that they're going to adjudicate the shit right on the street. And I think therein lies the fucking problem. And because they're getting called out, you're getting a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, that's almost a part of their privilege. Oh, we got a right to be, we got a right to do that. What are you talking about? When we tell you to do, like the little kid talked to me, the guy's a fucking kid, man.
Mm-hmm.
The little kid talking to me, I'm standing on the side, they talking to me, but I said, get back. I'm looking at him going like, come on, man. Come on, man. You take off the gun, you take off the badge. You wouldn't even dare talk to me that way. This guy's 5'2", man. You know what I mean, Stu? I'm saying that only because of how 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 outrageous he was, and people are just standing there far from what's going on, and he's trying to, demonstrate his authority. What are you talking about? Come on. You just ask us, man. You could just ask us to move back. We don't mind. We're just looking. He actually, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Still, he didn't. He took the whole wrong approach about everything that I thought. Instead of just being,
Well,
do the gig.
as you said earlier, that's part of their culture. They're trained that way, and they're also trained to look at us as less than human, and that we are the criminals, and that they are the yeah. My wife in the background saying master race. Yeah, that's part of it as
I
well.
love that word.
Yeah,
Say hi
yeah.
to me. Tell
Yeah.
Linda I said hi.
Mr. Doug says hi, Lynn.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the slave catchers, which is just the flip side
Oh,
of
you
the
mean that's part of their
same coin.
cultural, his historical baggage? But
Yes.
but
That,
see that
I
gets
mean
that.
that's where the police come from. I mean, this is not something that you don't know, Doug, but the police in this country evolved out of the slave catchers specifically. That's where the police departments came from in this country, is they were initially in charge of keeping toll on the slaves and on going out and catching the slaves and keeping them under control. That's the history of the U.S. Police Department.
Unbelievable.
So when you look at that, it starts to make sense why they behave like they do, like they did that day out on the street with you, waving his dick in your face, back up or else, because we are the slaves, they're the slave catchers, they're the master race. We are their slaves, and we look at them the wrong way, they can hang us up from a tree. I
I,
mean,
I just I just want to go on records too. I did not see the guy's ding ding at all. I did not,
sorry.
did not see that. Nobody did that.
I meant metaphorically.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yes, they
Sorry
said
about
nobody did.
that.
Nobody did that. Steve. I didn't see that. I might have reacted different. I might have had to go get locked up if he did that. But no, he didn't do that. But you're right. Well, it's interesting. I remember the two cops that stopped us when you were dropping me off at home, and the guy, the two black guys, and they were well, I got to give them credit. They kind of they went with the logic.
Yeah, they checked themselves, but
They did
still, their
check.
first reaction was, "Oh, these guys are doing something illegal."
Yeah, yeah, get back in the car. And then I told him I'm not
Yeah,
doing that. And he was like, "What? I'm the
right.
police. I don't give a fuck."
Yeah,
And and again though, every time that when those kinds of things happen, you say to yourself, like the little guy in your head goes, "Did I just say that?"
hmm
It's like because really, if you saw how me and you reacted to the police, that's exactly what you're not supposed to do,
right.
according to everybody. Because they're not. You're not supposed to. I'm
Yeah,
yelling at
we
them.
basically ignored them.
Yes, that's right. We're
Right,
not doing it.
right.
I don't know if I would tell the people at home to follow that,
hmm
but that's exactly what we did. We not. What are you talking
Yeah,
about? And when I said to the guy, "What are you talking about? I'm old enough to be your father." That really fucked the guy's head up. He was like, "Oh, well, I'm the
hmm
police. I see you, the police, but somebody talk to your father like that. Would you get upset?" And that's what I'm saying about them not having any humanity. And I guess in some respects they can't have any. They can't have any humanity because they got to keep winning. And
I disagree with that, Doug. I disagree with that.
okay, I'm glad.
I mean, those guys are the tools. They're not winning. The guys on the street are the tools of the guys that are winning.
That's true.
So it's all about who trains them, how they're trained, and who are they working for? They're working for the people, or they're working for the corporations. They're working for the regular folks, or they're working for the moneyed interests. So
I say money and interest.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
That's
But
that would be my vote.
you said it has to be, and maybe it does have to be. Maybe that can change, but I don't.
Well, I would like to see. I would like to see them take a look at the way that the culture is run and who the leaders are
Mm-hmm.
and the things we do in the culture and try to fix those things and because they can do big things when they they got to look at all those people that they got to go. I've said this before. They look at all those people that got to go in World War II to go over there and believe that and most of them believe they wasn't coming back. They got a lot of people to go over there and fight for that. Same thing with the thing in Indochina. The same thing in Afghanistan, even though the numbers are smaller.
Mm-hmm.
They have a way of getting people to think that it's a good idea to go help out.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to helping out economically or coming out to changing some of the things in the culture that gives them less power in some respects, they refuse to deal with those things. They fight those things. I mean, the culture itself, it fights those things because I guess the people who claw and fight to get to those positions, they don't want to give them up. So they fight to maintain their opportunity.
Right.
And which goes back to that's why I keep coming back to the sports thing, because it doesn't matter because there's always people better than you. There's always people who are gonna have a better performance than you. There's always people who are gonna outplay you. There's always teams that are gonna be better than you. There are teams that are sometimes you go play against teams that are not that good, but they have your number. You can't fucking beat them.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that situation. You go, God damn.
Mm-hmm.
You can't beat them because that particular team has the perfect counter for that. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't respect your opponents, then you'll start looking around and thinking something's wrong with the people on your team. And that's what I see in our culture right now. There's a lot of pointing going on and blaming going on, as opposed to looking and going, wait a minute, everybody's on the team.
Mm-hmm.
In the culture, everyone's on the team in the culture. When you're part of a culture, everybody there is on the team, and everybody matters.
That's the part that has not been really inculcated in the mindset. That is that there is one team.
Correct.
Back to your capitalism thing. Back to my example of the tribalism. Until we understand that we are all on the same team, we're gonna have these issues.
That's right. You're not gonna fix it because you're fighting against yourself and you're fighting against people who are inside the culture and they have advantages and they're not. And it's literally an unfair fight.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a fight that's unfair, people start doing other things. You start the things get like I'm gonna give you the basketball game. All of us when you're in a situation when the shit don't look right and you're not getting and the referees are when shit's rigged, shit gets physical. People start going for retribution. I'm talking about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
People start, they start really acting out and getting physical about it and getting very testy. A lot of times the games get called off.
Mm.
Because people they're not gonna play.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? They're just too
yeah,
angry to
yeah.
play. They're not gonna play. This is not going right. It's not being adjudicated properly. The referees have lost control. The referees lost control of the game.
Mm.
The culture, that's when you hear that. Things because those things happen, and it's always the same thing. Those things happen because all of a sudden people believe that things aren't being adjudicated. Like we're calling one thing and not calling the other.
Mm-hmm.
And people start reacting. People start taking matters in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And my fear is that if they don't stop it, if they don't recognize that people can see them, and they're outnumbered and they don't even realize they're outnumbered because of the machine. I believe because the machines in the pocket.
That's a good thing, and the fact that people are seeing it, that needs to happen. I mean, because until everybody really wakes up, I don't think we're
You
going
got
to
nothing.
big.
You got nothing.
Hang on.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Stu Reed, and we're on 95.9 FM. The FM stands for Free Music. And we're also available on our many websites where we're streaming live over uh, uh, gacr.nyc at gacr.nyc, right, at jwjcr.nyc, safeandsmart.org, webt.org, wacr.org. We're in plethora, smorgasbord, veritable uh, uh, um, uh, group of sites where you can go and you can hear all of our shenanigans. We got a YouTube channel and you could go there and you could get all the stuff. You know, Stu, Rick, Motivation Young, and I, well, he, not gonna say I, but he's done, just this last month, he did 20 shows in the month, and he was
Mm.
excited. He was excited that he did 20 shows in the month, and I told him, you know, that's just, you only did five, you only did five a week, you know, and you took Saturdays and Sunday off, but he was excited. But the point I'm
Maybe
making
a
is that,
lot of bean.
well, you know, we're you know, the whole point of the matter is that we're you know, providing, you know, we're getting the kind of conversation and the word out about the things that are happening in the culture. And I'm saying the culture instead of the country because the culture is the one thing that all of us are a part of. And when people think that they're not part of the culture, I always look at, well, you know, do you follow all the traffic rules? Yeah. Do you have insurance on your car? Yeah, that's all. All of those things are part of the culture. All of those things, you know, culture is the things that we do around here. And around here, there's way more cooperation going on than lack of cooperation. But you're not going to see that in the main media
Mhm.
so far. You're not going to get it from the politicians because they all have made their bones based upon them having an unfair advantage. And I believe the unfair advantage has been the way the elections are run. How do you get on the board for the elections? How do you get on the ballot? I think those are things that have been tightly gamed out and controlled. And I think universal mail-in ballot and the thing that the NBA players are doing by making the arenas, and that helps in the bigger places where there are NBA teams. There's only 30 places, but making the arenas, and the football players should be doing it. The baseball players should be doing it. They should be making their places available for voting.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
You know, I mean, most places that I've seen, you got to have a car to get to most stadiums. So, you know, a lot of folks that you know, that may be challenged economically, that's not going to help. But still, you cannot have too many
well,
voting places, polling places,
think
especially
about
given
this,
the way
Stu.
that shutting
Think
stuff
about
down.
think about this, Stu. The black athletes and Hispanic athletes in this country are the richest black and Hispanic people in the world.
Yeah,
Collective, as a collective group. So
yeah.
it's no big deal for them to get the buses together to bring the people over. They should make the shit an event. They
I
should, because
hope
they
they
can
do
afford
that.
it. They should get the buses out. When people come to the arena, you could register. You could, you know, they got all kinds of things, entertainment and stuff going on there that could help people learn about what's going on. So, you know, getting the people there, I don't think the athletes can get together. That ain't gonna be a big problem. They do that, they're gonna have a slam dunk. Get the people there. Make the buses available. Take them to vote. Make it the shit and do it every time.
Mm.
And have dig this. And if I was Michael Jordan, I would, since he's involved in that, I would have the some of his. I would go and have Nike make up some of those retro sneakers, and everybody that vote can buy those retro sneakers for $10 off. You have all the sneakerheads lined up around the block for that. They coming. You bring out the people, you know, everybody that's 17, and you have one of the big athletes there. So if you got somebody's that favorite team player, there's your 17, 18-year-old people, they showing up. You have, you know, so that's the value. What you just can't say, oh, here go the building, go there. They got to bring the other part to it. They got to be the one that finances the bus, because that's what I would do. Let's get 10 buses.
Have you heard anybody talk about that besides yourself? I mean,
No,
that's brilliant, but
no, I didn't.
it's also a no brainer. But you know, are they going to get there? Are they going to connect those dots?
I'm thinking we ain't the only dummies in
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah,
But that seems like a natural next step.
absolutely,
They
absolutely.
showing up. The people's gonna show up. They're gonna vote. But they like that rapper kid said with the orange hair. You can't just show up for the big things. You got to show up for everything. You can't. Oh, we got to get this guy there. Now you got to show up, and you got to make sure that the district attorney is not being run on the post. Who the fuck is he? He's got to be that.
Mhm.
Who's he? Because that's the guy who's arresting us. That's the guy who's placing charges against us. The district attorney. He's important, and you need him. And you know you need to get somebody in there who's going to be accountable to the community, and they don't have that.
Mhm.
You know, and that's what we need. We need that. And you know, and the thing with the buses, that makes no sense. If they get involved in the process of voting, if the athletes get involved in the process of voting, then there's gonna be some problems.
Yes, no,
And
it's a
good.
good
Hey,
thing.
look, like John Lewis was saying,
It's a good
they
problem.
they would be getting into good trouble and they'd be getting in the way.
That's right.
And they've been doing it, and I think that's going to help. And I think that's why President Stinkbutt, when he found out about that, he said, "Oh, I don't think they should be getting involved because that takes away the power that whoever has of running the elections and doing the counting or closing making it hard for people to come and vote." And I keep saying this: they had the Voters' Rights Act, and not one Republican in the Congress voted for that. Not one Republican thought that would be a good idea to have a voters' right. Fuck what was in it. I don't even know what was in it because most people don't know. I don't. Doesn't matter. But just the idea that there wasn't one Republican in all of Congress who thought it was a good idea because they're voting. They're voting for. They're playing a team game. They're voting by teams. They're not voting. They're not voting. They're not shopping for democracy and voting for the issue. They're not doing that. And if you don't have that, I don't know what the fuck you got. What do you have? If you don't have people going in and voting, shopping for democracy and voting, and I know I'm going into the Dr. Blackie persona, but if you don't have the voting for, if you don't have people who are voting and shopping for democracy, what the hell do you got? What do you got?
I think it's called a charade.
Charade.
Yep, that
Yeah.
too.
Yes, I like that, Stu. I think we are experiencing somewhat of a
Well, in my mind, democracy in this country has been a charade for over 200 years. I think we are just now waking up to the fact. I mean, a lot of us have been woke for decades, but as a country, as a culture, as you would say, folks are just now waking up and seeing exactly what a charade is. And when you can have this guy in the White House, he's the president, and he breaks the law every day. He's lied to the public 20,000 times, and he's still there. I mean, what bigger charade can you have? I mean, it's
Mhm.
absurd. I mean, you couldn't if you made a movie with that kind of script, they'd throw it out. This is ridiculous. This is impossible.
Never happened.
This is worse than a this is a cartoon.
Yeah,
And, and
which he
here
had.
and here it is. Here we are.
Well, he does have. By the way, so there is a show called Our Cartoon President. So
Okay, well,
I just thought I'd throw that out there.
I'm just saying that the fact that it has been, in my mind, a charade, especially when you look at it from the perspective of our folks who have been on the outside and the underside of this whole thing, since day one. It's been a charade, and now I think mainstream white folks are just starting to see exactly how twisted and upside down everything is. So, in my mind, that's a good thing, and I'm hoping that it's going to result in some really systemic change.
Well, I think we are going to. Well, like I think people should follow what John Lewis has said, and I think if when I thought about some of our collective escapades, I would think that they'll be able to say that we've continuously got in the way, and we've continuously looked to get in good trouble, and
Mhm.
I think that getting in good trouble it's a beautiful thing, and we should all be working to do that because fixing the culture and getting people to work together as a team benefits everybody. And you don't have to have people on the team, and I've learned this over the years. You don't have to have people, everybody on the team ain't got to be singing no kumbaya. You ain't got to get along with everybody on the team. You ain't even got to like everybody on the team, man. That's even allowed. You don't got to even like people. That's what I love about sport. But basketball, sports. You can be on the team with people and they hate they fucking guts. But that don't mean you ain't gonna get out there and work with them to play to win. You ain't gonna use that person's skill set to help further the cause. You ain't gonna give that guy, that person a pat on the back when they've done something to help the team, even if you don't like them. I've done it. You know what I'm saying? Because even if people don't like you, and
And
until
and, and 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 in this case, the team is the United States of America
That's right.
and all of its people.
That's right, Stu.
And what we're winning against is
That's right.
poverty, opportunity, you know, uh, healthcare. I mean, criminal justice system. All of that stuff has to be defeated collectively.
Well,
And if we're able to do that, you know, that's a
well,
home run.
well, the first thing that the first I would say the very first thing that has to be done is that people have to understand that we do live in a culture with the different people that are not alike, and that the thing that describes the culture is this in the culture. This is what we do around here. And right now, what we do around here is that we don't look out for treat everybody equally.
Right.
We don't look out for everybody the same. This is what our culture does right now today. We don't treat everybody the same. We think that it's not a good idea to help people out when they're down. We think that's a bad thing. Or we ignore those things. And it's those are the kind of things that the culture has to come together and say, hey, we got to do something. When there's a need to help everybody, you got people in the who's supposed to be in charge saying, oh, you can't have this and you can't have that because it doesn't make sense because I said so.
Yeah.
Not because the people said so.
Well, and also because our culture says you're supposed to help yourself,
Which
you
is
know,
ridiculous.
you know,
Why,
I mean,
why have a culture? Why have a culture, Stu? If
yeah.
if it's all about helping yourself, why the fuck why you gotta come? Why you got all these rules? Why you got everybody talking to each other?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have all these fucking rules? I don't need no fucking rules. Everybody for themselves. See, they don't have that because they know that doesn't work. If that was the case, we don't need no fucking street lights. We don't need no insurance. What I need insurance for my car for? Why I gotta send my kids to fucking school? You know, if I see something that I need, I should just fucking take it. Too bad for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's how they set the country. That's how the country got started. You don't want to do that anymore, but you want to maintain some sort of control so you can stay on top. And I'm saying that at some point, that's not going to work. At some point, we're going to have to bite the bullet and decide that we're going to live in a culture where everybody's working to help each other. Even the people we don't like, even the people we don't agree with, even the people who we wouldn't walk on the same side of the street with. You know, they're all important. They all help out, and they're all part of the team. And we don't have that. And that's why when it comes time that's why you don't have the $600 that they was giving out to everybody. That's why those guys in the Senate could walk home and say, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And they don't look like everybody in the country. They look like the people who are in charge of the country, but they don't look like all the people who are in the country. So people got to be super educated about voting, super educated about culture, and working with others who we don't agree with. And I would say that teamwork should be on the agenda, and understanding teamwork should be on the agenda, and teamwork kinds of games that teach people, that help people to check themselves about teamwork. Those should be things we should be taught to our kids and to everyone, so that people understand that you got to help the other guy out. I mean, you look at all these Preston Sturges movies, the movies from the 30s and 40s that we grew up with, because those were the only movies on TVs in the 60s, was the movies from the 30s, 40s. It was always talking about helping the other guy out. We got to help the other guy. Don't kick a guy when he's down. You know, all these good movies where they came from the 30s, or when they remember how things were tough, or when they were trying to get people to go fight in the war. All of these things. You want people to try to look at these things and say, hey, you know what? We can do better. And this time talking about this is not the country we are. This is the country we are. This is a stink butt country, the despot that's pilfered, raped, and murdered, and took everything that it wanted. That's how this country was formulated. And so people need to cop to that. Say, hey, and we want to be better than that. Can't have a culture where gun manufacturers are indemnified, that people can go in and shoot other innocent students and citizens, and you get up there and say it's our Second Amendment right to have a gun, but no one's responsible for their gun. There's no insurance, there's no license, nothing. Makes no sense. It makes no damn sense. And on top of that, they promulgating the lie that they're going to go and I'm having a gun so I can protect myself. And I'll just leave it at this, Stu. When I was walking around in that yard with all those motherfucking murderers and all those other people up in the maximum security during the Attica Rebellion, I didn't see no people walking around in that crowd that was walking around looking to give somebody a fair chance. Those are all people who were looking to do dangerous things, who are dangerous people, who are looking to do things to people and not give them an opportunity to protect themselves. So people say, I got a gun to protect myself. You want? I was in there with those guys. You ain't protecting yourself from them maniacs.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that these are devious people, Stuart. Then I mean, that's not how you can't. I mean, they're fooling the public by telling them that. Oh, if you get a gun, you can protect. No, you can't. That kid, that if they would have got that gun from that kid, the young kid, they would have took the crowd was chasing the guy after he murdered somebody. That's how. That's how.
Mhm.
Again, that gives you an idea about a group
You're
mentality.
tuned in to GHCR, Grant Houses Community Radio, home of the Community News Service.
The crowd was chasing the guy who murdered somebody. The crowd went after. He was running with an AR-15, and a guy ran behind him and hit him in the head with a skateboard
Yeah, and he killed him.
and killed him. He was chasing the guy because he shot somebody in the head. And when you listen to Fox News, which I did, they didn't even, they acted like that didn't happen. They started talking about the building and somebody had to protect the building. They didn't even look at, this little young kid. This kid's life is ruined. 17, he killed two people. His life is over. So, I mean, why is he, you have to ask yourself the questions. Who would give their 17-year-old kid a fucking AR-15?
Mhm.
Nobody would do that. Your kid is 17, very impressionable when your children are that age. What are they thinking? You know what I'm saying, Stu? What are they thinking? I mean, who would put that kind of onus and burden on this teenager kid who ain't gonna know nothing about life for at least 10, 15 more years, Stuart? Oh man, that kid's. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't put that kid's parent on TV and say, "Hey man, what are you thinking?" Well, I mean, how do you feel about that? They gotta be beside themselves. The kid's life is ruined. And, oh, we're gonna get the best thing. We're gonna protect him. Nothing's gonna protect him. Nothing's gonna protect that guy, man. There's some very mean people in the big house. I don't, it's stunning, Stu. It's stunning. You think that these people that run around, the level of things that people can and will do to other people. You just have to go in the big house for a couple of hours and you go, whoa. The level of things that inhumane things that people will do, when you look and see those people, they're terrifying people, man. These are terrifying people, Stu, that will do
Mhm.
terrifying things. And they're walking around there acting like everything. And you got a culture where people walk around and going, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. And you're going, are you kidding me? The ability to do evil and mean things is, I mean, there's no boundaries in this country for doing for you to for you to have the ability to do those things. Stu. There's nothing that can stop you.
Mhm.
And I'm with you. I'm hoping that somehow or another that people wake up and realize that without everybody, you got nothing. You got nothing. Without people thinking that they have a chance, that everybody has some sort of chance, you got nothing. And we're gonna go down you're gonna continue down the rabbit hole. And when for people to look at that dude, the stink butt president, and think that 40% of people say that he's okay. I'm okay with people voting for him. I'm all right with that part. I don't begrudge anybody for voting for whoever the hell they want. But when you see somebody like Maya Angelou, somebody shows you who they are, you got to believe them. And I think that's what I was. I guess that's the point I was saying about the dudes in the big house. They're the scary people, man. it's, so, it's so scary. So you say to yourself, I don't think I'm coming back here. Just for shits and giggles. You don't want to. They're not. My point is that suppose they let all them out, man. Thank you, thank you, Stu. Thank you, Stu. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? They could actually let those people out of there, man. I wouldn't want that, man.
Well, that's got less than zero chance of happening, so I wouldn't be concerned about that.
Well, I listen, Stu. I don't discount anything anymore after seeing Ronald Reagan being the president. Okay, after seeing the 9/11 stuff, after seeing and hearing some of the things that I hear on TV about the we versus they stuff. you almost say to yourself, anything's possible with these fools, man.
Yeah. Well, how about the millions of people that are locked up on bullshit? How about that? How about letting them out? I mean, because the population that you were just describing, that's a subset of the entire population that's in the big house. And we've seen a tremendous increase of folks, mostly black and brown and Latino, locked up in the big house in the last 20, 30 years, mostly on drug
You know, that's how the system works, man. You know, they don't care about nobody.
yeah,
And the people that I was talking about are not everybody's too. I'm
no,
just
we're talking. I thought we were talking about who's in there
no, I agree. No,
who
we
needs
are.
to be let out. I'm just saying
We are.
those folks need to be let out. I
I
know
agree.
that's how the system works. They
I,
they like to lock us all up. We are the
correct.
slaves. You know, they like to lock us all up or kill us. It's their country. It's not ours. They don't
Correct.
need us anymore. Go back to Africa. You know, they don't need us anymore. We know that.
And we don't.
So, but you know, they are losing control. The white male supremacists are losing control, which is why we're seeing this guy in the White House acting out crazy, crazy, crazy.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
they are losing control. So, you know, I'm just hoping that the whole thing doesn't just blow up on the way to fix itself.
Mm. Well, you know, I guess you have to have that probability in order to kind of make things work. You got to
Mm-hmm.
have that probability. And you know, on the reason the other thing I was going to say, Stu, that you know, you're right. All of the people in there are not the people that I was talking about. But I just focused in on them because of obviously, if you're in there, you're going to be scanning around to see, well, who's the most dangerous people in here?
Oh
Because
yeah,
you know. So
that's their lie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm the reason why I brought them up because I explicitly focused in on them
Mhm.
and how horrifyingly terrifying, how terrifying those guys, those particular people were in a place full of terrifying people. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? You got the bad people in there, and there's some of them in there that stand out over the rest of them. And you know, you say to yourself, and, I hate to admit it, but you say to yourself, I've said this, oh, I hope they don't let him out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you would think that given your commonality of being, you know, imprisoned and everything, that you would have some empathy for your fellow inmates. And there's some of them in there. You go to yourself, they can't let that person out.
Mhm.
They just can't. And that's so I was talking about those people. If
Mhm.
they really wanted to have some, you know, trouble in the culture, if those guys get out, there's going to be trouble. And you know, there's nothing or no one are going to be able to save some people from them. And you know, and that goes, and they're all colors and all races, obviously, because you know you got prisons all over the world. So you know, you're right, Stu. There's got to be some reckoning of
Mhm.
honesty and truth, and some reckoning of the actual we and they need to drop the they shit and get and try to get with the we because that's what fixes and resolves things is the we.
Yeah.
And again, you know, you got a lot of people, and again, you're right. You got a lot of people in our culture who think that they're going to be the winners. That you know, and I keep bringing that. That comes back to the sports thing. You know, you have a lot of people who think they're going to be the winners. They're going to be this. They're going to be that. And you know, this, like you said earlier, there's got to be losers. You know, and I keep thinking about being down in the camp. You know, with the Philly, and you know, all of us are sitting there, and you know that, you know, there's 40 guys there, and you know that they're only going to keep 12 guys. 40 guys there, and you know you had to go through a rigorous process just to get invited. And you know there are going to be people who going home, who going to be going the fuck home. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know,
Most of you going home.
yeah. Most of everybody's going home. You know, 2/3 of everybody's going home.
Mhm.
And you know, and it ain't got nothing to do. That's the funny thing. It ain't got nothing to do with skill set. They ain't got nothing to do with it. So you know, they looking for a totality of things. You know, it's not just how well you can play. That just gets you in the building with the group. But you know, the other things, you know, your look, your attitude, which more your attitude is way more important than probably anything. If you don't got the right attitude, you're dead on arrival. And so those are the kind of biases that have to be eliminated in a capitalist society in our culture. Those are the kind of biases they got to you got to find trying to take those things particular out, which is why I like the basic income thing, because that's the equalizer. And you see how strongly the white guys are the white guys are against that. They were, I mean, that was incredible how they were against people having some guaranteed income. That was incredibly crazy that they think that that's a bad idea. So the rapper's right. You're going to have to get out and get everybody involved on all voting on all levels, the district attorneys, the cops. You're going to have to figure out the controllers. You're going to have to figure out how to get people in there who are looking to help everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No, I just wanted to follow up on your thing about UBI, universal basic income, and just how your earlier statement about how the culture has to change and evolve, and I think it's going through a real catharsis right now. And the pandemic has pointed it out, has highlighted it, I should say. The what 40 million people out of work has highlighted it, and it's just showing, you know, really how the system has worked, and now how it doesn't work, and back to your whole thing about the capitalist model, and how folks have worked for these major corporations and agencies and businesses all their lives and think that that's what life is all about. And now that those businesses are cutting back or going under, folks have to reevaluate, well, what is life all about? And one of the things I've learned about universal basic income, I've got to give credit to my European brother, Schmidt from Switzerland, who's been on talking about this stuff for over a decade. And his whole thing is, well, it's more than just economic survival. It's really human freedom that we're talking about. Because if you're able to step off of that treadmill that we're on, so many of us are on, just to keep a roof over our head, to keep our kids fed, if you're able to step off of that treadmill, you can look around and make some really qualitative decisions about your life and what you're going to do with it. So it really frees you up in a very human way to kind of redirect your life in a much more positive, humanistic, fulfilling way. And that's what UBI does. And I think folks are starting to at least look at that because of the pandemic, because of the economic crisis that we're in now. And again, all the pain and suffering, I think, is resulting or will result in some increased awareness and increased consciousness and move us to a better place. That's what I'm hoping. And UBI is certainly one of the solutions that helps get us on that road, I believe.
well, I hope so. So I hope you're correct because something definitely has to be different and change if they want to want things to move forward.
Yeah.
And if they don't do that, then I don't see how they're going to. Who's that? Somebody came in. Still?
Oh yeah, okay, Bob.
Oh, Robert.
So, okay.
Oh wow, Robert. Good evening, Bob.
Hmm.
Oh, is his microphone's not working? Good evening, Bob. top of
It's
the
all
afternoon. Top of the
it's
afternoon to you, Bob.
it's always morning somewhere.
That's true. Well, Bob, you missed a rip roaring conversation about the guy the shooter.
Yeah, I heard some of it. I wasn't gonna come on, but then I heard Linda's voice, and I was like, "Oh, this is a classy show. I should
probably." Yes, it's because she's directing on the other end, by the way.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. I want to be a part of this now.
Yeah, well, you did it. You did it, Bob. Bob, so yeah. Bob, your opine on the the shooter or whatever, whatever
Man, I don't have anything really to add to this bullshit. I mean, for people to come out and herald this killer as a hero, crazy. He is a murderer. His family are accomplices to murder, and the police in Kenosha are accomplices to murder. Those are the facts. Those are not disputable facts. The sanctioning of police execution. They want to talk about law and order, but you have to start with law and order with the people who are supposed to uphold the law. And so when you have a situation where police are executing people, they're not upholding the law. And then when you have police who are making capricious judgments where a 17-year-old who is breaking the law by being there, the so-called curfew that they're blaming the protesters for being there, but the shooter was breaking the curfew. The shooter was breaking the law by being under 18 and having a long gun in Wisconsin, also against the law. And what did the police do? They gave the guy a bottle of water and go on your way. Here, stay hydrated.
Nothing to see here.
What?
Nothing to see here. You got your long gun. You just murdered 2 people. Nothing to see here. Keep it moving.
And so when you see what's going on there, you see what's happening in Portland, and these are direct calls to action from the dog whistles and coded messages that have come from the president and the Republican Party. And so the worst fears that we had about this election season is being realized. And my prediction earlier in the summer that this thing would heat up by September, but we're in advance of we haven't even reached September. So I don't, I'm reiterating, I'm sure, what you guys have talked about in great depth. I don't know that I'm adding anything to the conversation except that these are very scary times, and people who are saying that the democracy, or so-called democracy, whatever you call this American experiment is in danger, because the one thing that's held this thing together was the promise that after all the bullshit that they would deliver on some of what were promised in the in the initial documents that founded this nation of on stolen land. So I don't know. I do not have high hopes for our November election, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to fight like hell to get Biden, a candidate who I'm not enthusiastic about, but I'm enthusiastic about him being an alternative to what we have now. And
what do you think about the NBA guys, Bob, making the arenas available and for people to come and vote? And I mentioned that the NBA guys should have buses and everything to get people to those particular things. What do you think about that whole idea?
Well, I mean, in general, I am proud that the NBA is using their platform to be involved and have a say in this matter and not make it business as usual, because these leagues have continued to try to make it business as usual, shut up and play, don't get involved in politics, and their own humanity prevented them from doing this. So I'm really appreciative of the NBA. I'm appreciative to tennis player Naomi Osaka.
Yeah, that was hot.
made a huge stand in literally, pulling out of a tournament that there's every indication she could have won the whole thing. But, this was more important to her than that win. I appreciate when athletes take a stand. It counters the Herschel Walkers of the world who,
Well, I don't know if you noticed or not, Bob, but he's been diagnosed with multiple personality syndrome. Did you know that?
I don't even care,
Okay.
because the
Well,
person
that might explain why. Which one of him?
I don't care how many you have. If you got one that's talking trash, I can't ride with it. Okay. So maybe the other personalities need to have a conversation with that one, and with that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, why we had to see that one. Yeah, why we had to see that one.
Yeah.
He said Donald Trump is not a racist because I said so.
Well, it's Stockholm syndrome. I mean, Donald Trump paid the guy money at one point in time. And so, I understand there's some sort of debt of gratitude, but just be quiet about it. You don't have to, this is not the time and it's not the place. And now he's whining because he's lost a lot of friends over this. Well, actions have consequences. So, and then you got your son up here shilling for him too. No disrespect to the son, but you don't know nothing about it, son. So sit down. Read a book, read several books. Maybe you learn something before you come out here and basically use your father's platform to make an ignorant statement. So I'm not feeling any of those walkers.
Well, hey Bob, one of my friends called me up who lives in Atlanta now. He lives up by City College. And one day I saw him when I was walking up the hill, and he's the only person that I've ever met, black, who he told me then, he said, I'm voting for Donald Trump. And I said, what? He said, yeah, man. And I said, you vote for Donald Trump? And we've known each other since we was about 12 or 13. And I said, really? He said, yeah. And he said, and I'm voting for him because the people deserve him. He said, I'm sick of the Democrats. He said, and I'm voting for him because people are going to deserve what they're going to get. And I thought that was a little crazy. And he called me out of the blue like a couple of days ago, and we were talking on the phone. He called me from Atlanta, and I said, now I repeated what I just told you guys. I said, hey, man, you're the only person I know that's black that says he's going to vote for Trump. I said, so what do you think now? He said, now that everybody got what they get, he said, I ain't voting for none of them. he said they're all stink butts. And he thought that he voted for him as a punishment to the Democrats. And when he said it, this was like 3 or 4 years ago. I thought, I said to him, I was stunned when I walked away from him, and I said to myself, wow, as I was heading to the park bench, Bob, for my normal salutations to the morning, which I'm going to be going as soon as this show is over, by the way.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Maybe I should.
Yeah, maybe you should. Yeah.
Well,
but the point I'm making, Bob, is that he thought that at that time that there should have been a punishment, and he felt that now after this has happened, the punishment has been officially granted. And I just was wondering how you feel about it, because I when he told me this, I was like everybody else. Why you voting for him? And then after over this period of time, I realized that, man, we needed that guy to be in there, because otherwise none of these kinds of conversations would have come about.
Yeah, well, you guys sounds a little extreme on punishment. I don't know if he has kids.
Yeah, he is extreme. He is. No, he is. No, forget about sound. He is. He is.
You came in late. You came in past curfew, so I'm gonna have to break your arm.
Well, I should say this. He's a retired corrections officer. So let me throw that in there.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah, so he's in the punishment.
All right. I mean, okay. I understand his rationale, but I can't ride with him either. But no. At least he has a coherent framework for telling you why he did that.
That's
You
that's
know,
the point.
so
That's the point.
I will begrudgingly give him that, you know, but what I have a problem with, and unfortunately, I seem to know more Black people than you who have, you know, voted for Trump and still shill for Trump. And I just feel that they are blithely ignoring facts that are readily available and evident. I feel like, you know, it's
Stu, blithely.
blithely. Yes.
How
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that, Stu? That's
Yeah.
somebody. That's an SAT word,
Yeah.
probably.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, Bob.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You just blithing all over the place. You know?
Yeah. The blighter in chief.
And making decisions that are contrary to your own self-interest. And you know, I have no space for it right now. I'm really, I have to pull myself back now because I have been saying this to myself and other people, and I find myself going against it because the last week has been so egregious. I usually don't like to jump into stuff on Facebook but it's just gotten to this point, and it's gotten higher and higher, and I'm just like, all right, filters off, you know. I'm blasting people verbally because I have no, you know, I just don't have any room for it anymore. You know,
wow.
I'm not, so what I realized, if I am going to comment, I'm not going to have a long discussion. So I'm just going to go in. Here's why the shit you're saying is so stupid.
Boom, 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 boom.
And at first I was like, yesterday, I was like mad at myself because I was like, I said I wasn't going to do this. It's taking me away from what I need to do to bring food in my own household and take care of myself, because I know I need to be a certain place by November, because if this thing goes sideways, you know, you think we seeing bad yet, 2021 is going to make 2020 look like a picnic. So, but yesterday I found myself having to go hard on people, and I noticed that when I did, nobody had any response other than people liking what I said. But the people who were talking and stuff, they didn't have anything to say after I was done. So I was like, all right, maybe this is good. I haven't changed any minds, but at least I shut up the nonsense, you know. So I'm not, you know. You come online talking about, you know, Melania being the classiest first lady ever. And then, you know, they just go down the list of talking points. We're trying to turn the country into socialist, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, I'm not having it. You know, you're not talking through those talking points with me, because I'm going to hit you with some facts. And if you don't have facts to come up, you need to just shut up.
Shut it up.
You know,
STF.
So, yeah,
STF, huh, Bob?
Yeah, yep.
STF. Yeah, STF.
STF.
Yeah, man, because, you know, they're really, you know, okay, well, you know, we did mention the thing about if you had, let me ask you and Stu this. If you had an opportunity to talk to, let's say, Tucker Carlson or Hanratty, I mean, after, you know, I don't know if you could do it without sticking your knife in them, but if you could actually have an honest conversation or tell Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson or, you know, anything, you know, on air, what would you say to them?
Well, the one thing I would do, and I think this is a problem that the Democrats don't do. So here's this, and it might be this might be, I don't know if it's controversial, but it's a slightly different angle I have on this stuff. So first of all, I believe that the racism is not just racism for racism's sake. It's a strategy. It's a strategy for keeping people. It's sleight of hand, because racism is such a topic that it keeps people engaged while they're doing all the other stuff. And so if I'm talking to a Tucker Carlson, I'm not talking about Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about the stuff that white people should be outraged about. So I would ask Tucker, why do you support a man that didn't do anything when Russia paid money for American soldiers to be killed? You know, I would start asking those kind of questions.
Topical question.
You know, and just go down the list of all the things that, if you take out the race issue, there's like 15 or 20 other reasons to be totally outraged by Trump. And you can customize them to who you're talking to. Anybody who is a mother should be outraged by what happened with putting kids in cages and everything that's happened, you know, with the whole immigration thing. You know, anybody who lives anywhere near there is water issues, and there are over 10,000 sites in this country that have extreme water problems. It's not just Flint, Michigan. They only talk about Flint, Michigan. You remember Erin Brockovich? They made the movie about her.
Yes,
so
yes.
So she's still, and you know, she's got a Facebook site, and she's got a map of all these different toxic water sites all over the country. Anybody, and around all of those, you've got people who are getting higher rates of cancer and all sorts of other diseases. And this is happening under an administration that has basically removed all the safety, all the environmental protections, most of which came in under Republican administrations in the 60s and 70s. You know, a lot of that EPA stuff and clean water stuff came in with Nixon. You know, so it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't the Democrats who you know, everybody wants clean water, everyone wants clean air. You know, so there are things that every American should be outraged about, but because we have the most non-strategic Democratic Party ever, they keep basically they allow the Republicans to dictate the terms of engagement, and by doing that, the Republicans keep controlling the narrative, you know. And so we keep talking about the things they want to talk about instead of all of the things. There's so many things that have gone wrong in this administration. It's like there's too many menu options, and so they don't know what to do. And so, you know, it's not that I don't think we absolutely have to stand up for Black Lives Matter, but it's become, you know, now they've already succeeded in the narrative that somehow Black Lives Matter are terrorists, even though there's no actual factual evidence of this anywhere.
You mean they're making shit up, Bob?
Yeah, evidently they are. So, you know, I mean, and so you got to counterpunch with facts. You got to hit you know, you got to work the body. You got to hit some body shots with some facts and not keep trying to, you know, we keep getting rope-a-doped, basically. You know, so you know, I am not confident that the Democratic Party has the full answer. And also to compound it, because they have basically squelched the progressive wing of the party, they're not getting the support. You know, they should be riling up every young person in America. And if they were able to really turn out the youth vote, most of them would overwhelmingly vote against Trump. But by having Biden basically be really very weak on progressive issues, most young people are not feeling Biden. And thank God they got Kamala Harris on it. But then they shut up who is the one person?
You're tuned in to GHCR, Grant Houses Community Radio. The
one person in
all
of
Upper West Side.
You got it. I didn't even have the chance to get it out. Mm-hmm. AOC is the one person who could mobilize the youth vote. She's the person in all of national politics who is most likely to be able to mobilize that youth vote. And they gave her 60 seconds of time in the Democratic convention. How many nights of airtime do they have? And she gets 60 seconds. So what is the message that you're giving to the young voters that you want to come out? You're saying, we want you to vote, but we're not really willing to engage you or listen to your issues or make sure your issues are part of our platform. So the strategic problems on the Democratic side are just, I just keep shaking my head. It's like, I was like, do you want to lose an election that by all rights you should win? And then the second one in a row. I feel like the Minnesota Vikings in the when was it the Minnesota Vikings used to keep going to the Super Bowl and losing every year.
Hey Bob, it's almost like they're acting like the Washington Generals against the Globetrotters.
Right, exactly.
But only they reverse it by going, we're not as bad as them, so you should pick us. And then when you get into it, they're just as bad in a lot of other ways because the Democratic City. Stu, so what would you tell Carlson or Hanratty if you had a chance?
I think Bob has it right, hitting it right on the head. I would have a hard time being in the same room with
yeah, me too.
I couldn't do it. I
can't do it.
I hand off to you, Bob, because you're being rational and strategic with your conversation. I think you're right on point. I don't know that I could be that rational and strategic. I'd be probably out of my mind and just sitting in the same room with that guy. So I think I would excuse myself and defer to somebody who is more rational.
But with Tucker Carlson, I would definitely go at him hard at, you supported a murderer. There's no, and I would just stay on it. Stop your bullshit, Tucker. You championed a murderer. You should be thrown off the TV right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's no excuse. There's nothing that this young person said or did. He wasn't defending any business. He didn't own any businesses. He was out of state. So don't tell me some kid should come out of state being driven by his mom to come to a protest and basically kill innocent, peaceful protesters who are basically, exercising their constitutional rights. Not to mention life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that he
two white guys, by the way, Bob.
People. Yeah,
and Bob, he killed two white guys.
Yes.
He didn't kill nobody black. He killed two white guys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Two of his own tribe.
Right. Tucker, the fact that you're not outraged just shows what a reprehensible human being you are. You shouldn't even be on the air. I would come at him so hard, I'd make him leave his own studio. That's what I'd do.
Now, let me ask you. Hey, Stu, you wouldn't think, I would think that you would want, this is just me now, listen to both of y'all. I would think you would ignore him and actually try to talk to his audience. You know what I mean? Because I think both of y'all are right. There's no way you're going to convince him of shit or Hanratty. They just seems like the typical white guys who have no ears. So I would think you would have to.
No, because his audience is the same as him. I have no illusions that I could necessarily convince his audience. But if I'm getting the opportunity, I'm going for him. I'm going for him verbally. We're going to spar, and believe me.
Still, we got to see if we can get something like that set up, where we could have Robert go against Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm betting on Robert, by the way.
All the way. I love that strategy, Bob. I love that.
Yeah,
you should.
I would actually put some lead in Bob's gloves.
I'm gonna be like a verbal young Mike Tyson.
Hey Bob.
Yeah, Tucker. Everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth.
Hey Stu, that's why I put some lead in Bob's gloves.
Yeah,
just to help him out.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hit him, you hit him harder. Because you need somebody who's willing, who has the patience and the aplomb to get after them, because some of the things that they're saying is disingenuous to the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I can say it's treasonous, but I mean, some of the things that they're saying on there, particularly about that young kid who I thought was even though he has a baby face. I would have to say this, that if he gets to the big house, he's in trouble.
Hmm.
I would have to. I could tell y'all both of that. He's in big trouble, and for a lot of reasons too, not just anything and one thing in particular. But he doesn't look like he can protect himself,
Mhm.
and he ain't gonna have no long gun in there. And I would say that if he shot somebody black, then I would say that his life wouldn't be worth a nickel. But since he shot another white guy, I don't think anybody would care about him.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion, you know what I mean, from putting on that hat. So I don't
Mhm.
know if I don't know, but I think I'm with Stu. I don't think I could get in the room with. I maybe could get in another room and talk to him over the phone, maybe. Talk to him over the phone, and I don't know if I could get in there right in his face. I would have to defer to Bob.
But Bob, I like your whole attitude. And before you came on, we were talking about how, at least in my view, how complicit so much of the media is in this
Oh yeah,
nonsense,
oh
and they
yeah.
don't call stuff out. They say he's done 20,000 lies, but they don't call him a liar to his face. They repeat his lies like, oh, okay, well, this is what he said today and this is his latest statement, knowing that it's bullshit.
Yeah, they got a cottage industry called fact checkers.
Yeah, but to Bob's whole attitude, I'd like to see that attitude brought over to the media on the other side of the aisle as well. I think they got a lot of issues.
Mhm.
I wonder what
I
you think
mean,
about that, Bob.
well, I mean, the thing about media, Donald Trump has been a tremendous boon to the media
Yes,
because he creates so much controversy, and controversy creates traffic, and traffic creates dollars.
that's right.
So the media has and a lot of the media has you've seen obviously with newspapers have had a hard time in the transition to the digital age, and broadcast media has always been controlled by the purse strings. So there's very little really honest media out there. I mean, you take out Democracy Now and a few other outlets like that, and there's not really many people who are really going to give you the real story and also report on things that are not being reported in the mass media. And so I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I mean, we've always had issues. I mean, that's the history of media in this country. This has been the history. Even the so-called bastions of in quote unquote integrity, like the New York Times and Washington Post. You dig back into their history and you see some egregious egregious um that was also a good SAT word, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people don't know about the Warren G. Harding administration in the
Wow.
20s. But I would say that administration probably rivaled this one for the sheer audacity of just out cronyism. And during that time, the publisher of the Washington Post was deputized by the Secret Service so he could get inside information. And he told only the story that the government wanted to tell him. And that administration was one where almost all the major players died under mysterious circumstances, including the president. And no one talks about that, but that's the history of Republicans. They get in and then they bring in their friends. This was during Prohibition. And so the one place that you knew you could regularly get a drink in during this administration was the Oval Office. And the Secret Service was actually made it easier for the bootleggers because if you paid the Secret Service, you could run your liquor. And this is all, this is deep in the history books. You can find this information, but again, it's like Black history. Certain history just doesn't get taught in the schools, and so it refuses to live and exist. And Stu, Linda can tell much more about this than I can. But there are, I mean, the things that have actually happened in this country, are, I heard somebody say once that the reason why they can't teach real Black history because the history of Black people here is so shocking that it would do damage to kids to actually learn what really happened to us.
I agree with that, Bob. I agree with that, Bob. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, no joke either.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that terrible.
It's just interesting here. We're in 2020, and we're seeing, something equivalent to the rise of Nazi Germany, and they think people saying this are being hysterical, but the parallels are just so right there in our faces that people can't see it. It's like it's too close.
Well, when you're busy, I say this all the time. When you're so busy winning, you think that what everybody's just saying what they're saying because they're not winning. And that's the kind of attitude that people have when they're winning. And
Right.
these cats have been winning for a very long time. And they are, when people use the word privilege, that might be underselling the attitude that they have about, about their winning.
Certainly the whole COVID thing has brought an X-ray to that. I mean, people literally felt like their point of view was superseded science and medicine, and common sense.
I like the common sense, Bob, because having a degree in psychology, I noticed that when I went to get my ring for graduate, because I thought that was important, especially coming out of the big house. I noticed on my ring it said psychology is the science of common sense, and I said to myself, boy, could we use some common sense today? You have no damn common sense. No, and before you came on, Stu and I were pontificating, if that's not a proper word.
That's a good one. I like that one.
About the lack of teamwork in our culture. How the people who run the country don't think that there should be any teamwork. They're kind of more of, like Stu likes to say, top up, and then what I say goes. And they've missed the whole idea of working as a team and the benefits of that. And you don't give and there's no even concern for the other guy, who may be down and out, for the other guy who may need a hand. None of that. And that's almost kind of unbelievable that you would be living in a place where people think that they shouldn't have to care about other people, and everybody's on their own. That's just kind of
that's also one of the more disturbing things I've seen lately is the just total lack of empathy for other people that we're seeing in Americans. And Americans have always prided themselves on, we are the world, and if there's a hurricane or a tsunami, all of a sudden folks are raising millions of dollars, and we're Americans, and we have big hearts, and we have big brains, and we have, and it's all narrative.
Oh, you got big words. You got big words.
We got big words. We got a lot of big talk. But when you see the lack of empathy, even Rush Limbaugh attacking Biden and saying we shouldn't be sorry for him just because he lost his son. And it's like, why even go there? If we're having a political conversation and different points of view, but where is the empathy? Why is it that because you have a different point of view that people shouldn't empathize with a man who lost his son? Anybody who's a human being, and especially anybody who is a parent, should empathize with that.
Hello.
And so I just don't, the fact that there's they're now celebrating lack of empathy. They're celebrating, not caring about other people. And truth be told, Americans have, we've certainly had a lack of empathy for anybody who doesn't look like us, and so if 100,000 people die in an earthquake, if it's in a country where it's mostly brown people, it's page 97 news. It might get a brief mention on the nightly news once, but you don't get that follow-up. But if it's from a country where, if it's from a European country, like remember France, France has an earthquake or an explosion or something. It's, oh my God, it's terrible. We've got to raise money. We got to send money. The Cathedral of Notre Dame, oh my God, the symbol of culture. We have to, we've got to send millions, He's like, but people are starving in the streets of the city you live in. I know, but this is important.
I don't know if you saw this. There's an infomercial, Bob, on the, I seen it on the NBA channel, but some guy comes on and he's the coach. I couldn't catch his name. Not in the NBA, he's the college coach. And he said, this black guy, he said, hey, if somebody took out a gun and shot a dog on the street and somebody videotape it, he said you will see more uproar than the people who are upset about the guy being shot 7 times.
That is true.
That's what I thought the same thing. I said, I had to catch myself. I was going like, man, that's probably fucking true. He said if a dog, somebody had a picture of, somebody shooting a dog in the streets, too, there would be a national uproar among white people about that. And way far exceeding what has happened to.
Yeah. Well, the dog is innocent, but the black guy got to be guilty. I mean, that's just their mentality.
Yeah.
By very definition, our black skin is an assault on white people. By definition.
But the white skin is not an assault on people on humanness. That's not an assault.
Is that a statement or are you being satirical?
I damn if I know. I don't fucking know. This shit just came out.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I think it was both. I think it was a
oh, wow. I mean, you just don't, you can't, you have to get people to see. When Bob was talking, I kept thinking about what he said earlier, Stu, how when you're on a team, like in sports, you're on a team with people who you don't get along with, some people you don't like, some people who are not your friends, but you still figure out how to work together. You still work together for whatever your the common cause is trying to win. And and everybody's clear about who everybody is. There's some people I've known since I was 12 years old, playing a lot of teams with them. I wouldn't even know the name of their kids if they had kids. I don't even know if they have kids. I don't talk to them anything other than what we're doing on the court. You know what I mean? And I'm stunned by the lack of teamwork because it always bothered me when I would be on a team and people would want you to be, do that kumbaya shit. And you have to get in the locker room and tell people, look, I'm not here for it. I remember in college, I had to get up and tell everybody, I'm not here for all of this, holding hands and playing around shit. I'm here to, I'm here to win games, man. I'm not here to fuck around with you motherfuckers with this stupid shit y'all be doing in the locker room. And, people didn't like that, but at least I took a position. I took a position.
Well, I'll say, Doug, that there is no common good in America that's clearly defined. And the sports analogy it's pretty simple. Okay, win the game. In America,
correct.
It's the society is so fractured and so tribalized, and the culture has everybody going for themselves and every group going against every other group. There is no such thing in the minds of society as a collective win. So
got you.
Teamwork's out the window because there's no team goal.
So when you were saying that, I kept thinking the capitalism shit is the shit that you got to smack in the head because that's the thing that's keeping everybody worrying about the money, which is probably why they're against the UBI, Universal Basic Income, because that ameliorates the whole capitalism
Mhm.
shenanigans.
Well, I mean, look, the real deal is UBI is going to become a necessity over the next 10 years because they've already done the projections that we're going to lose millions of jobs to automation and outsource. We've already lost, but between now and 2030, we're supposed to lose millions more. And so it's going to be increasingly necessary. And the thing is that none of our elected leaders, Democrats or Republicans, have a 10-year or 20-year plan.
Correct.
All of them are thinking to their next election cycle. So no, everybody knows this is happening. No one is doing anything about it. But it is something, and let's see where it affects us on the ground is is at the crux of this problem, because you have a bunch of white folks in this country who are barely making it, right? And so they're angry, they're frustrated, and what the Republicans have done is given those folks a common enemy. It's not the real enemy,
Correct.
because certainly Black folks have no sway in the
Anything.
economic problems of poor white folks. We didn't
Thank you.
create any of them.
No.
And whereas, you know, we might sometimes compete for resources, but we never compete on an equal footing for those resources. So it's like, you know, the idea of Black people and even immigrants, you know, being the reason why you're struggling to make ends meet, and why you've got self-image issues that cause you to self-medicate with Oxycontin and fentanyl. You know, that's not on us. That's on your 1% brethren who created the conditions that allow for that, you know, by taking a country that built up its own manufacturing and technological base, and then outsourced it all to the cheapest corners of the globe, and removed all those jobs in the process. You know,
I
so
got
am I
I got
preaching
two
today?
things, Bob. No, no, I got two things. I just thought about it.
Yeah.
One, there was just came out. They had an announcement about 2 weeks ago that that Yale was discriminating against white people and Asians in their admission policy. And I said to myself, well, who the fuck's getting in? Who the fuck's getting in there? I don't know if you heard that, Stu.
I did.
Yeah,
Well,
Stu, who the fuck's getting in there, Stu, if they're
that
discriminating
Well,
against the white and Asian?
it's simply a lawsuit. I mean, it's not a fact that they're having a problem.
I
Somebody
no,
understand that. I understand
somebody
that.
brought
but
a
what
lawsuit
it
that
is,
claimed that was happening.
Yeah,
it's
but who's getting in if that's really happening, Stu? You know what I
that
mean?
okay, so what it is, it's lazy litigators that try to kill two birds with one stone. On the one hand, they want to attack affirmative action against Black people, but on the other hand, they want to champion affirmative action, because the real truth is that Asians deal with reverse affirmative action. Most Asians have better grades than the white folks who are getting in, but are being let in at a lesser amount, because they're afraid that Asians are going to overtake them. If it's based on merit, you know, the Asians are blowing everybody away in the grades coming in, and so the Asians rightfully have an issue. It's like, just let us in at the percentage that we're in. You know, how are we killing the SATs, killing the GPA? We play the violin, we play the piano, we got all the extracurriculars, but we still have problems getting in here. What's that about? That's one lawsuit. But they're like, but while we're doing it, let's see if we can attack Black people at the same time. And it's
I
just
thought it
not
was
gonna fly.
I thought it was indicative of the kind of hubris that we see with the people who are in charge. They're, blamers, and think that it's always someone else who's at fault with what's going on. And you
Mhm.
never, and my point is, if I use my teamwork analogy, you never win any games when you come when the game's over and everybody's sitting around doing the blaming shit. That's a loser locker room, bro. Every
Mhm.
single time. That's a team that doesn't win anything. when they're doing the blame thing. And I look at, you know, Trump and the Republicans, and I see them with the blame. I'm going, you ain't going to win with that. That's not a winning formula for the country. You know, for the people, it's not a winning formula for all any of us when you have people doing the blaming. No, you got to do is look at your own. You know, those of us who've had young children in their house, you already know when they start that blaming shit, you ain't gonna find nothing. Nothing's the truth's not coming out.
Well, I gotta go soon, but I want to leave with one quote, and the quote is from the great George Carlin, who spoke long and hard on these issues, and virtually everything he said was like spot on. And he had one great line. He said, "Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups."
Yeah.
That should be the American. That should be the American credo.
Yeah,
That should be our credo for Americans. You
yeah,
know, that's where we are right now. Okay, man, Bob. Thank you.
yep.
And of course, on Wednesday morning.
That's right. 9:30 on Harlem Emergency Network, YouTube and Facebook channel. We'll be having our regular update. We'll definitely be talking about COVID. There's more information on some of the other symptoms that you can get from it that are not quite as life-threatening, but purple toes and all kinds of other stuff. So we'll be getting into that, talking a little bit more about back to school, and just trying to keep on top of it.
Stu, on Wednesday, Stu?
Yeah, on Wednesday we've got Community and Technology on WHCR FM 90.3, as well as on YouTube and on our safeandsmart.org. So definitely tune in.
And don't forget the Facebook channel.
This week's broadcast, you're going to see a show that we did last week. Really fascinating young academic professional librarian talking about all of the AI discrimination that's occurring in all these automated proctoring programs now. There's a big push to sell proctoring programs to educational institutions to proctor their remote learning. Apparently a huge increase in like 900% for some of these companies in their work volume, and all kind of bias built in that works against Black and brown folks and disabled and other non-white male folks, as usual. So tune in.
Okay, yeah, and I'm doing the what's in your hand and the wisdom table with Rick Young and Brother Leroy, and we're currently in the middle of doing a 30 for 30, where we're doing 30 shows in 30 days. So so they're on our YouTube channel, and don't forget the stuff that we're doing also on WEBT's Facebook page. So that's where it's also archived. So if people want to get more of Robert and Stu and myself, they can go to the WEBT Facebook page and hear more of our shenanigans and our just out and out truth telling. And I'm gonna wrap it up by saying, remember everybody, if you tune in next week, same, maybe not the same time, but some around this time next week.
Yeah, went a little long today, man.
Yeah, we did. And remember this, you might just learn something. So I have to go because the pigeons in the park are waiting for me. Later.
All right,
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks. Take care.